think it was Ativan. Oh, whatever. It was one of the pain meds I had here. Man, I'm really digging my hole here. Man, Dr. Martin, he's always high. I don't know what's going on. It was surgery, guys, and believe me, I'm a lightweight. One Norco and I'm down. All right, so customer pull, though. So that process actually defies customer pull. Those of you that fill those prescriptions, they sit there and they never get picked up. And then what happens? Somebody tell me what happens to it when they don't get picked up. Return it to stock, right? Or call the patient again. You've just created a whole lot of extra work, right? For no good reason, except to get them to pick up a prescription they don't want. All right, so that's a good one for customer pull. And I'm sure there's other pharmacies do that. I don't want to pick on one particular chain. It's just something that's come into vogue that defies lean mentality. Last part, and this is important to differentiate, is we don't think that perfection exists. We want to strive for perfection. We know it can't be attained, but we're going to go for it, right? So you repeat, control, and spread. So the idea is that you improve something, then you do it somewhere else, then you do it somewhere else, and then you try and disseminate it throughout your organization until you get to near perfection. There are some key assumptions about lean as well. And that is first, that people value the visual effect of flow. Anybody like looking at process maps? I'll confess I do. I like it. I like seeing how something works. Whenever I don't know how something works, I like seeing it. I don't like somebody telling me about it. I like seeing how it works. Okay? Waste is the main restriction of profitability. In other words, you can't be successful if you have a whole bunch of waste. Waste is the problem. Okay? And then lastly, many small improvements in rapid succession are more beneficial than an analytical study. This is where Lean and Six Sigma differ. Six Sigma is a very methodical, slow, thought-out process, and we're actually going to go through part of it today and then tomorrow as well. But we're going to go through that slow, gradual process of Six Sigma. Lean is all about identify a problem, fix it, move on. Identify a problem, fix it, move on, right? We call it Kaizen. Okay, so to kind of bottle these three theories, I've given you some if-then statements. I have another one that I can share with you that's non-visual. But for theory constraints, if we focus on constraints, then throughput volume will improve. It's all about more widgets. It's all about profitability. Six Sigma, if we focus on reducing variation, we'll have more uniform process input. In other words, if you reduce variation, you reduce errors. Lean, if we focus on waste removal, then flow time will improve. So we speed things up. Patient wait times, bedding a patient, getting them transferred, things like that. Okay, good? All right, so the other one is always the glass half full or glass half empty. So the question is, so what do those mean for each of these? So theory constraints, basically just keep pouring water in it until it spills all over the table. Six Sigma is all about the idea of we need to analyze the purity, mineral content, and all that before we drink that half glass of water. And Lean says we need to send this glass back and have them manufacture a smaller glass. All right, make sense? Okay, differentiating these three. Anybody have any questions about this? We're going to dive in if that's all right then. All right, let's apply Six Sigma to a serious safety event. So you're already in your groups. So here's our case, and I'll give you some extra information as time progresses, so feel free to take notes on this as we go, because I won't be able to display both slides. All right, so a patient on a medical unit receives a dose of a pain medication at 2300. During routine rounding, 4 hours later, the nurse found the patient unresponsive. Emergency response system was activated. Code Blue response team was called. Despite heroic efforts on the part of the nurse and the code team, patient did not survive the event. Okay, here's some additional information. Patient had an active order stated, hydromorphone, 1 to 10 milligrams as needed for pain. Does anyone see a problem with that? Someone tell me what's wrong with that. Range dosing, right? Not only that, that's a pretty massive range, right? But range dosing, this is why range dosing is bad. Usually it's narrower than this, but range dosing is still bad, okay? Under the additional instructions, order states give 1 to 3 milligrams for mild pain, 4 to 7 for moderate pain, and 8 to 10 for severe pain. Range dosing again, but what else is wrong with this? It can be subjective. It depends. Depends on how we do. Well, it's always subjective, but it depends on how you're measuring it. It's probably the best way to put it. We would want to make sure that there are definitions in place for these, right? So a lot of times in facilities, and it doesn't say it here, so it's a good point, is this will be 1 to 3 on a scale of 10, 0 to 10. This will be 4 to 7, and this will be 8 to 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 for pain. But we don't have that on here, so yeah, it's subjective. We need to define these things. Okay, anything else wrong with this? There is no time on either one of these, right? 1 to 10 milligrams is needed for pain. 1 hour, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 minutes, right? Okay, good. All right, great, guys. Y'all are rock stars at this already. All right, this order is present on a designated electronic admission order set. What's wrong with this?
Like a pre-filled out script kind of?
It's electronic, but yeah. So like it'd be in, and I click, like if I have this order set up, then I'm going to go and admit a patient, and this order is already checked on there. What's wrong with that? It's not individualized to the patient. Good. What's the potential risk? Is this event likely to happen again? Okay, good. All right. Patient had no documentation of ever receiving any opiates stronger than hydrocodone 2.5 milligram. Me, in other words. So what's wrong with this now? What sticks out to you? What's our relative potency of hydromorphone to hydrocodone? Not specifically, but relatively. Threshold's low, right? Hydromorphone 10 milligrams is going to hit this patient like a truck, right? Good. All right. There is a hospital policy that defines mild. Oh, I did have it on here. I just didn't see it whenever I was talking. That defines mild, moderate, and severe pain as 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 10, respectively. Okay. Again, the problem with this, actually already defined, it's subjective, right? I tried to point the pointer at you. All right, and the last one, there's a hospital policy that states that patients must be reassessed for pain approximately 1 hour after pain medication is given. Y'all think that's pretty normal, pretty standard? Good practice, bad practice, in between practice? Great practice, right? Takes these drugs about 15 minutes in. Ideally, you're staying close during that whole hour, but you need to at least reassess. Go back to our case. During routine rounding, 4 hours later, nurse found the patient unresponsive. Didn't follow policy, right? Okay, good. All right, so here's where we're at now. Results of the event are devastating to the patient, patient's family, patient's nurse, and the hospital. There's an active lawsuit for the event. The nurse has been placed on administrative leave. Your pharmacy director and hospital patient safety officer are concerned that another event similar to this one is likely to occur. They've asked you to lead a multidisciplinary team, in this case, a bunch of pharmacists. Y'all can role play if you want. I think we have some of you that have some other healthcare backgrounds. To recommend improvements to hospital processes to prevent a similar event. Okay, so what I'd like you to do in your groups, so here's questions we're going to ask. I'm going to go to the next slide as well. Y'all should be able, and I would just fill this in on here if you want to. So let's define what is the problem, who can best define the problem, who owns the process, who is affected by the process, and then use those questions to figure out who needs to be on your multidisciplinary team. Okay, we're going to utilize a tool called SIPOC. All right, so I'm going to show you that real quick, and then I'll go back to the slide so you can use it to do your process. So the idea is you want to identify a process, and you can pick any of these. There were, 10 things wrong with this, right? Pick one. Don't bog yourself down. Don't try and do all of them. Pick one, all right? And ideally, we have different ones across teams. So pick one, and that's your what's the process that should have happened? And keep it simple. You get this too complex, and it blows up. So this is good practice. So identify what's the process. Start there. What's the process? What's the part of this that we want to try and fix first? Okay? Then figure out what are the things that are inputs into that process, what are the things that go into that process, what are the things that come out, and it doesn't have to be what's intended, okay? Who supplies the inputs, okay? And who is affected by the outputs. So start in, work your way out. Take a little while to fumble through this, all right, but that's kind of the point. All right, so let's take 10 minutes for this, all right? So I'll go back to the other slide so you don't have to keep jockeying back and forth. But if one of y'all wants to describe and just enter text into those bubbles, that'd be just fine. just to clarify, you're looking for a broken process. There were at least 10.